Hey everybody, Sneaky Narcotic back at it again with another YouTube video, and today we're going to be going over some more Theros Beyond Death in-depth spoilers. Before we get into the video, guys, let me please ask y'all to like, share, and subscribe. It would mean so much to me and I would greatly appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into today's video, starting with Nightmare Sheppard. So it is a 2 generic 2 black mana enchantment creature demon. It is a rare, it has flying, and it says, whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile that creature. If you do, create a token copy of that creature except it's a 1/1 and is a nightmare in addition to its other types. And it is a 4/4 flying demon for 4 with no real downside, to be honest. So I really like this card. It begs to be broken. Corpse Knight, Cruel Celebrant, Yarok. Corpse Knight and Cruel Celebrant is pretty straightforward. You're going to be playing an aristocrat deck, but you get to determine if you want your creatures to actually die, or if you want them to die, then get exiled. Because that is how the card reads, by the way. Non-token creatures you control die, you may exile that creature. So they do get to die, and Cruel Celebrant gets to trigger, then you get to exile it. But also you can kind of do this whole Yarok the Desecrated, where he does the enter the battlefield tribal, and just have a lot of cool enter the battlefield effects. And they just come back as 1/1 creatures, but they already do their little effect when they enter the battlefield again. So it's pretty cool, and I like that. Mystical Renewal, 1 green mana, instant uncommon. It says put target enchantment at the bottom of its owner's library. So this is really cool, because it can take care of the gods, but it can also take care of some of these pesky enchantments we've been seeing lately, like Doom Foretold and that the Merry Men one that I've seen from time to time. I can't think of right now. But for 1 green mana at instant speed, you can just go ahead and put those at the bottom of an opponent's library, which means it's basically off of the tables for the remainder of the game, because they can sometimes play enchantments back from their graveyard, sometimes play enchantments off if they're like at the top of the library, but at the very bottom of the library, you're going to have to wait till the very end of the game to play them. So a very good card. I think that people will definitely be playing this with how prevalent enchantments will be coming up in the next set. The next card on our agenda is Loathsome Chimera. It is 2 generic 1 green creature Chimera. It is a common. It says escape. 4 generic and a green. Exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. Loathsome Chimera. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its escape cost. The next thing is that Loathsome Chimera escapes with a +1/+1 counter on it. So it comes back for a 5/2 instead of a 4/1. Nothing really to talk about with this card. It's not that great. It's not that bad per se. A 4/1. It's more like, it feels more like a red card where it'll have a big front but no back. And it's just weird for green to do like that. Next card, Heroes of the Revel. 4 generic and a red creature Satyr Soldier, uncommon. When Hero of the Revel enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 red Satyr creature token with this creature can't block. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Heroes of the Revel, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Brashness is close enough to bravery, and it is a 4/4. So I like that it comes down and it makes a 1/1 Satyr, although in the picture you see him with more than one 1/1 Satyr. So it should really make 2 1/1 Satyrs, but hey, they can't block anyways. There's no point to Satyr tokens. I'm really not on this whole Satyr token path right now, so I really wonder what that's going to be about. Herof of the Pride, 1 generic 1 white creature cat soldier, common. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Herof of the Pride, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Leonin fight for neither god nor polis. Their loyalty is to their pride, and it is a 2/2 for 2. So what's really cool about this card is that they're kind of doing a throwback to Heroic, where Heroic was if you target this creature, it does something. And so I love that they're doing this little throwback to Heroic with this little common creature, but also that's an Ajani Pridemate, but not an Ajani Pridemate. Same mana cost, same starting out power and toughness. So I dig it. I like it. Favored of Iroas. 2 generic and a white creature, human, soldier, uncommon. As Constellation, whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, Favored of Iroas, anyways, gains double strike until end of turn, and it is a 2/2. The promise of victory fills my heart that there is no room for fear. Well, that's cool. There's no room for fear. Not really much to say about this. Double strike is an amazing ability, but other than that, not really much to say about this. Agonizing Remorse. 1 generic and a black sorcery, uncommon. Target opponent reveals their hand you control. You choose a non-land card from it or a card from your graveyard, their graveyard. Exile that card, you lose 1 life. The sharp memory of Daxos' death stabbed into Elspeth's soul. So I love the flavor text on this, Daxos' death, because from the little excerpt I've read, Daxos was traded for Elspeth in the underworld. So that's interesting that there's this whole thing between Daxos and Elspeth. Excuse me. But more importantly, you get to choose a non-land card from an opponent's hand. It's basically a thought erasure, except for you don't surveil one. But it's also a thought erasure that can hit your opponent's graveyard and exile instead. So I think that's probably going to see a lot of play, especially with the Davriel decks running around right now. Probably going to see a lot of play. Well, I guess I didn't do this one right. Let's put both of them up here. Heliod's Pilgrim. 2 generic and a white creature, human, cleric, common. When Heliod's Pilgrim enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an aura card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. And it is a 1/2 for 3 mana. So just an aura tutor, that's not bad. Probably will be playable more in Pioneer or some deck where you're looking for an aura. The reason I said Pioneer because on Sarah's Wings is in Pioneer, but possibly somewhere else too. Triumph Surge. 3 generic and a white instant common. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, and you gain 3 life. Not even death can quench a hero's inner fire. Well, I'm going to mention this again when we go over the spear that is actually in Elspeth's hands right now. But I really should say exile target creature with power 4 or greater because of that spear. But anyways, let's keep going. The last of the cards before we get into the real cards I want to discuss today is Elspeth's Nightmare, and it is 2 generic and a black. As this saga enters, and after your draw step, add a lore counter. Sacrifice after 3 lore counters. First lore, destroy target creature an opponent controls with power 2 or less. Second lore, target opponent reveals their hand, you choose a non-creature, non-land card from it, then that player discards that card. Third, exile target's opponent's graveyard. And for 3 mana, you do okay. The first saga is not that great, the second saga is okay, but the third saga is really where it's at. Kind of shutting down escape type decks and just having fun doing it. So we'll see how everything goes here. The first card that I really want to discuss today is Thessa's Intervention. It is X and 2 blue, instant rare. Choose 1. Look at the top X cards of your library. Put up to 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. The next one, counter target spell unless its controller pays twice X. I bring a flood that nothing can withstand. Love it. It's a draw card, basically. It's kind of like a limited tutor draw. I compared it mostly to like Chemist's Insight, because if you pay 2, then you're doing Chemist's Insight, basically. And I also compared the second ability to kind of like cancel. Cancel is the most generic, in my opinion, counterspell there is. And people might say, well, that's counterspell. Well, counterspell is not what they print as a common. So anyways, if you pay 1 generic and 2 blue, same CMC as cancel, then you can counter target spell unless its controller pays twice of X, so pays 2 generically. And that most of the time will do it. Most of the time they won't have 2 mana up if they're casting out their big bad, or maybe you have more mana you can invest for, hell, 1 more, it's X is 2, so X is 4 in the counter. That, yeah, that could be pretty good. Thessa's Intervention. Pretty good card right there. Here's the card I was talking about earlier. The spear from right here in Triumphant Surge. And this is why I say Triumphant Surge should say Exile, because this spear is insane. It's Shadowspear. 1 generic mana, legendary artifact equipment, rare. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample and lifelink. Pay 1 generic, permanents your opponent's control, lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. And equip 2. A weapon of darkness for a warrior of light. I'm going to assume that's Iroas that's speaking. I'm hoping there's like this whole, not redemption, what would I put it? Revenge saga for Elspeth to get back at Heliod for betraying her. But I really don't know. I know very little of the original story, only what I've read in excerpts. But as far as this card goes, let me get to the card. Trample and Lifelink, I don't see those together a lot, and those are some really good abilities. The equip cost is low, the initial payment of 1 is low, the pay 1 for all permanents. Your opponents control, lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. That's insane because we have a player in my commander group who loves playing indestructible artifacts, and guess what can now be destroyed and targeted by... Oh my god, this is great. I love this. I love this card. Of course, I'm mainly thinking about standard here. So Paradise Druid has this kind of pseudo... Well, not really pseudo, because it has hexproof, but when it's tapped, it does not. So Paradise Druid is one of those that you can basically let them lose the hexproof. Of course, you know, with the new set, we have all these legendary indestructible creatures coming in, and, well, they're going to lose their indestructibility. How cool would it be to see a 7/6 Perforos die to a 1/1 Death Toucher because they didn't, because they had to block it, or, you know, it's going to be good. I like it. Bonzehide Lion, a green and a white creature cat, rare. Green and a white, Bonzehide Lion gains indestructible until end of turn. When Bonzehide Lion dies, return it to the battlefield. It's an aura enchantment with enchant creature you control and pay a green and a white. Enchanted creature gains indestructible until end of turn and it loses all other abilities. 3/3 for 2 mana. That's really good. The whole pay 1 green, pay 1 white, and it gains indestructible. That's pretty good. Altogether, this is a really... I'm so sorry about that. Altogether, this is a really well put together card, and I dig it. I like it. I want some more of it. This card's pretty good. I like that it can come back and basically hit Constellation, but also it can help out with your Constellation deck by protecting your Constellation creatures with that green and white. And I've been saying this the whole time, that there's going to be this Selesnya type of Enchantress deck. And I also want to mention that it helps you get around these creatures that like to tap themselves or attack, and they're super weak. They gain indestructible, like Amara here, with your 1/1 white soldier creature tokens every time she, you know, gets tapped. So I dig it. I like it. Another thing I was going to mention... it gives itself indestructible, and so it's a good, decent body by itself. I like it. Anyways, The next card, Nyxborn Ancient, 4 generic and 3 green, enchantment creature elemental. It has mythic rare. It is trample. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. Ancient yet ever young, it is wise and subtle and cruel and reckless as the spring itself. It is a 5/5 for, granted, 7 mana, but it is also not a legendary permanent, so it's very helpful to get this card out. And yeah, so here's the thoughts. Incubation Druid. Incubation Druid initially taps for only 1 mana, but with this card, taps for 1 times... Well... Yeah, 1 times 2 times 2 is... no, hold on. It can produce... so I guess it's 3 mana here? Yeah, 3 mana, and then it produces 3 as much when it gets that adaptability. So it already produces 3 mana from that, so it'd be 3 times 3. I felt like I did this differently in my head earlier. Okay, so 3 times 3, it would produce 9 mana on the adapt. Leyline of Abundance, that would be 2 times 3, which would be 6. That's pretty good for all your incubation druids, your Land of War Elves, if you want to go that back, or Paradise Druids, Leyline Predator. So, pretty good. I like this card. The other thing is Nisla, because it says if you tap a permanent for mana, Nisla, allowing you to tap your mana, your forest for, what, 6 by themselves? That's pretty good. Pretty good. So, I like it. I dig it. I want some more of it. Probably card of the day right there. Probably card of the day. The next card is Elspeth Conquers Death. It is 3 generic and 2 white. As the saga enters, and after you draw a step, add a lore counter, sacrifice after 3 lore counters. First lore, exile target permanent an opponent controls with converted mana cost 3 or greater. Second lore, non-creature spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast until your next turn. Third lore, return target creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it, or a loyalty counter on it, and it is a rare. So the first ability reminded me of Glass Casket. The last ability, kind of like a Bond of Revival that can hit a planeswalker. I don't really understand the second lore that much. Non-creature spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast until your next turn. I'm assuming this mainly because we're going to be enchantment heavy, planeswalker heavy kind of decks right now. So maybe that's what that's about. Speaking of planeswalkers, they kind of released some cards from the planeswalker deck boxes, and I'd like to just kind of go over those real quick. Mindwrack Harpy, 3 generic and a black enchantment creature Harpy common. Has flying. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each player puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard. Harpies are among the most detested creatures in all of Theros, and they thoroughly deserve it. It is a 3/2. This is probably going to be the only playable card out of these Planeswalker decks that's kind of can stand on its own in Commander and Standard, because it's milling you and your opponent for 3, so Escape would want to play this card. The mill deck that's going to come out because of Ashiok will want to play this card. So a lot of decks want to play this card. Swimmer in Nightmares, 2 generic and a blue creature Nightmare Merfolk uncommon. Swimmer in Nightmares gets +3/+0 as long as there are 10 or more cards in a single graveyard. Swimmer in Nightmares can't be blocked as long as you control an Ashiok planeswalker. Ashiok's minions plumb the depths of the ocean and the psyche. It's a 1/4, but can potentially become a 4/4 unblockable. So, not really much to talk about, other than the fact that this is obviously geared towards an Ashiok deck. The next card, Ashiok's Forerunner. It is 3 generic, a blue and a black. Creature, human, wizard, rare. Has flash. When Ashiok's Forerunner enters the battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears. reveal it, and put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. Every dream is a doorway, and it is a 3/3. So, this is just a fetch card. It comes in a lot of Planeswalker decks where there will be a creature that fetches your Planeswalker. So, not much to talk about there. Sumlit Hoplite. 1 generic and a white creature, human, soldier, common. As long as it's your turn, Sumlit Hoplite has first strike. Sumlit Hoplite gets +1/+0 as long as you control an Elspeth Planeswalker. Even in her absence, the light Elspeth kindled in our hearts never faltered. And it is a 2/1 that can be a 3/1. Or no, 2/1 that can be a 3/1 and has first strike as long as it's your turn. Not really much to talk about there. There's not going to be much to talk about with some of these cards. Elspeth's Devotee. This is the fetch. 2 generic, 2 white, creature, human, soldier, rare. When Elspeth's Devotee enters the battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Elspeth Undaunted Hero. Reveal it and put it into your hand. If you search your library for this way, shuffle it, and it is a 3/3. For her, I would gladly die again. That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. I mainly like the flavor of these cards, and I apologize. I'll just delete this one real quick so we can look at the other one here. The other card is Eidolon of Inspiration, 1 generic, 2 white, enchantment creature, spirit, uncommon. At the beginning of your upkeep, at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Agios was felled by a Minotaur's blade, but I swear I have seen him since in the midst of battle wherever help is needed most. Fricos, Soldier of Akros, and it is a 2/2. Yeah, again, there's not much to talk about. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about these cards, and I really am kind of excited about this set as a whole. There's the whole Thessa's Intervention, Shadowspear especially, super stoked about Shadowspear. Bonzehide Lion, being able to protect your creatures in Selesnya. Not really something Selesnya is known for doing. They're more known for giving you pawns to play with. And then this Nyxborn Ancient is pretty cool too. This whole mono green Tron again, maybe. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and this is Sneaky Narcotic signing off.